Coach, you ready to roll?
Ready, absolutely.
All right, let's start with James Crapia from the Oregonian.
Joe, other than the ball going elsewhere on the two fumbles, either to hand it off to Travis or throw in a different route or something, what are the coaching points and correction points there? Because those plays happen so quickly to Tyler and Johnny that it just seems very hard for that to go back and say, oh, you could have, should have done this when a linebacker hits Johnny so fast. What are the coaching points there to correct that, to prevent that from happening?
Yeah, sometimes, you obviously have to credit the other team for making a good play. Tyler spun and the guy come in and punched the ball out, and kind of the same thing happened with Johnny. But, we work on ball security every single day at the beginning of practice. Obviously, we have got to do a better job making that a focal point during the course of practice, so our ball security and decision-making are better. And, two definitely negative plays that adversely affected the outcome. And but on the other side, both of their kids made pretty good plays on those.
Ryan Thorburn, register guard.
Mario was just on here saying that Washington's defense has wrecked some games with their edge players. How would you kind of describe the challenge that the offensive line and Tyler have this week just to be on point with that pressure?
Yeah, incredible size and strength on their interior two guys. And then you look at 58 and 55, two kind of different styles of player. Pretty sure 58 leads the country in sacks, I believe, and 55 is just a very strong and powerful guy. As you mentioned, but both can't allow the game records to wreck the game, and both of those guys have potential to do that. So our tackles, our backs, our tight ends, our quarterbacks, we got to be on point, making sure we're sound with our protections and protecting well and throwing on time.
Matt Preem, 247 Sports.
I don't know if it was just pure read or if it was by design, but Tyler had much more effectiveness running the football against Cal than the previous two games. I guess just how has he progressed in reading on the RPOs and the zone reads and whatnot?
He's doing well, and as we discussed last week, a lot of his carries are contingent upon what the person he's reading does, and Cal made the decision a lot of times to bend to end to try to tackle the ball carrier, so that gave Tyler a pull read, and he was able to generate, I think, 50-some yards maybe rushing, so he did a real good job there. We've just got to make sure, because we talk about the parameters of the quarterback reading the play, some are aggressive give or some are aggressive pull, just in case the read is gray. So we just want to make sure that he's doing a good job, kind of not forcing the pull, I guess, for lack of a better term. But I think he's made progress. I think he may have forced a couple pull reads there that ended up – there's actually a third phase to it, the ones that go to the tight end or to red. But I think for the most part, he's grown in his decision-making and did a pretty solid job in the game.
Eric Scopel, 247 Sports.
Yes, we talked about the running success for Tyler, but passing, I think, in the second half probably is his worst half so far this year. What did you see on film there, and what kind of things do you guys need to correct this week before you face Washington, and what is a really good secondary?
Yeah, he had a pretty solid first half. I think it was 7 for 11, I think, for 171 there. And then, I point to first some of myself. I got to make sure I'm doing a good job calling the plays or putting him in position to be successful. And hopefully we're doing that a high percentage of the time. And then when we do that, it's going to be incumbent upon us to protect, to run routes and get open, and for the quarterback to make the right read and throw the ball. I think there were some times during the course of the game, maybe he got off of his footwork and maybe got his eyes down on the rush, and that led to a couple errant throws. But, he's just got to fall back on his preparation and his knowledge of the offense and his fundamentals and technique. And, he's a young quarterback, fairly certain he leads the league in yards, touchdowns, efficiency, and total offense. And, took a little minor step back in the second half as a first-year starter in a new offense. So that happens. We don't like it. We acknowledge it. We take ownership, but he'll get better from it.
James.
So you talk about trying to prevent the game wreckers. Obviously good, was able to do so last week. He was unblocked on, I think, 3 of the 3.5 tackles for loss. I realize some is on purpose, some is a missed assignment, but are there things to clean up and correct there in terms of edge guys? And did not having Devin last week come back to haunt you a little bit, and having him back will help you, particularly on that, I think it was the 3rd and 1, where maybe it could have helped you if he was there, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think the first part is on a couple of those we had some missed assignments. So, he wasn't intentionally cut loose on some of those short yardage ones, and we got to get a couple of those things cleaned up. And then I think the other one that he made was on a read that Tyler should have handed off. So those were certainly very talented and effective player who had a good game. And then Devin coming off of back-to-back 100-yard games, really a threat on the back end to stretch the defense vertically, and getting them back this week hopefully will benefit the receiving core and our pass game.
Ryan?
Joe, in a year where a lot of teams are just struggling to try and get to the finish line of this thing here, how nice is it for you guys to have the motivation of still playing for hardware despite a couple back-to-back losses?
Yeah, I think Coach Cristobal does an unbelievable job keeping our guys myopic, having a great singleness of purpose for what we do, and we talk about a 1-0 approach every week. So hopefully our level of preparation or performance doesn't vacillate based on the magnitude of the game. So I think that's incredibly important from a cultural standpoint. But when you take that aside and understand that, this game is for an opportunity to continue to extend the season, I think our kids are acutely aware of that. I think they understand who the opponent is. And any time in 22 years where you're playing in the latter stages of the season with the opportunity to play more, it makes it a little more special.
Tyson Alger, The Athletic.
Travis is averaging 40 yards per reception. How is he so effective there? And with only 5 catches, like when do you choose to scheme something up and be able to use that?
You said 40 yards a reception?
40 yards per reception for a die.
Pretty cool. Yeah. Obviously he's got a very unique skill set for a running back. He's able to run between the tackles and make people miss in space, but he's also does some things that a slot receiver would do. So I think you just want to be judicious and smart where you're not asking him to do too much, but also taking advantage of opportunities where you could get him matched up in single coverage where he could beat maybe a linebacker one-on-one, or where you can, put a team in conflict with a certain zone coverage and get a 2-on-1 on a safety like we did on that long one that was called back on the penalty. So, definitely plays with a lot of passion, great kid, very positive mindset, and has been an incredibly valuable asset for the offense this year.
Jerry Thompson, Ducks Illustrated.
Coach, the question I get asked most frequently is why on 4th and 1, 3rd and 1, crucial plays, you run CJ, and this is not a knock on CJ, up the middle instead of play action pass or something different, because it seems, I don't know the exact percentages, but it seems last year and this year, we just get stuffed so often. And that's a question I get asked, so I'd like you to respond.
Yeah. We sit down during the course of the week and certainly game plan our short yardage and goal line package. I think we looked at our 3rd and short conversion percentage this year, and I think we're 6 for 9, I believe is what it was. And you kind of want to be in the 80% for that or higher. But, it's really what we do is really contingent upon what we see from the defense. And I don't know, in like 3rd and short situations where you want to necessarily be running sideline to sideline, you'd like to be able to get downhill and get a push on the interior of the line, and then you're really taking a calculated risk with the nakeds. We really do those more on the goal line than we do in 3rd and short. But I guess to answer your question, you want to have confidence in the interior offensive line to get a push. You want to get the ball handed off to the tailback going downhill with a full head of steam, and you hope that you're able to create a push at the line of scrimmage. And then when the opportunities call for some sort of misdirection or like a naked pass, we've been able to utilize those more on the goal line. And I think you look at the Washington State game, I think we ran a couple of nakeds where we hit Johnny and Chris Hudson on the flat. And I think those were 3rd and shorts or 4th and shorts. So it's really all game plan predicated.
Max Torres, Scoop Duck.
Joe, Jalen Reagor, obviously a very unique weapon for this offense. Talk a little bit about kind of his effectiveness and what you've seen from him this season.
Yeah, I think Coach BMAC does an awesome job with Jay Red and with the rest of the guys. But he's a fun kid to coach. Comes out to the field every day with a great attitude. Practices 100 miles an hour, and you can tell it really means a lot to him. And then kind of like Travis, kind of look at them as kind of similarly skilled, that you're able to use Jay Red as a receiver in the slot. You're able to get him on some speed sweep stuff where he could do some running back type of things. And, and create some mismatches. So, he, like I said, he's been another guy that's been a very valuable asset to us just because he's able to do a bunch of different things successfully.
Time for two more. James?
Joe, how have you seen him handle either his own self-criticism or the criticism he's received from the outside? Because you mentioned and rattle off all the stats and they're there, but it seems like a lot of people on the outside seem to have amnesia about how good he's been, and then they go and they see 1 of 7 and then they're ready to pull the plug and see if there's something else that can be done, as opposed to this is a guy who's been so productive for a long, sample size. That 1 of 7 may not be the end of the world kind of thing, particularly on 3rd and longs. How has he handled the criticism internally and externally?
Yeah, I'm honestly, I'm not too familiar with what the criticism has been for him. But as you mentioned, he's a first year starter in a new offense. And when you look at the numbers, I think he's been, like I said, had a very positive season thus far, but is also very, aware that he didn't have a good half, and we met and talked about those things. And the number one is to take ownership and accountability and responsibility for the things you didn't do well. And he understands that. Didn't try to deflect it. Didn't try to point it off on someone else. And we talked about that being part of the quarterback position. But it's quarterback like coach. You assume you get probably more of the praise you deserve when you do well, and you get more of the blame when things go poorly, and that's just part of it. And as a coach and as a quarterback, you got to have thick skin. You got to be resilient. But I don't think either offensively or as a team we're in a position to be doing any of the things that we have so far this season without his performance. And that doesn't mean he's where he needs to be. He's got a lot of work to go, but I mean, he's working hard. I think he's performed. He didn't have a very good half, and he'll learn from it and improve.
Last question goes to Tyson Alger.
Just as someone who spent the vast majority of your coaching career on the East Coast, now that you have just about a full Pac-12 season under your belt, what's been your biggest takeaway from just the new conference, from whether it's film study or just whatever?
I think my biggest takeaway has been the parity. And so far in 5 games, you look at the defenses and you look at the kind of the teams as a whole, that there's I don't want to say a level playing field, but you're seeing talented teams week in and week out, that if you're not on your best and not on your A game relative to your preparation and how hard you play and how well you execute, that anybody can knock off anybody. So I think that's been the biggest takeaway, that there's a lot of parity and a lot of similarly skilled teams.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Have a great day.
You